Hi, very good morning. I'm Dr. Janak Patel, MD, General Physician. All my video lectures are for educative purpose. They will be very useful to you, particularly fourth year student, for your oral exam as well as theory exam. Also, they will be useful during your internship, and also they will be useful when you start your private practice. This is a second group of video lectures regarding abdominal examination clinical side. Today we'll be talking on percussion part of it. First, initially we'll talk regarding general principles of percussion, which will be also utilized in respiratory system, cardiovascular system, and then we'll be talking on percussion of alimentary system. So there are two type of percussion. One we call direct percussion, and second we call as indirect percussion. Direct percussion means we don't put a finger in between the percussion, means we don't use a pleximeter finger. We directly percuss on a bony prominence, like percussing on a clavicle, percussing on a sternum, percussing directly on the skull bones, etc. These are called direct percussion. Indirect percussion means we put a finger in between, that is we call pleximeter finger, and with the percussing finger we percuss and produce the sound. That is called indirect method. This is indirect method. By and large, percussion is done to find out the location of organs, to find out if there is any mass which is being present, whether it is a solid or liquid. Depending upon the percussion sound, we can identify whether it is solid, liquid, what type of mass it is. We can also roughly identify the size, shape, and density of that particular organ or a mass. You can also find out a deep tenderness. If there is a free fluid in abdomen, you can identify. If there is a loculated fluid, that also you can pick up on percussion. So percussion will give you a lot of idea regarding good number of findings. So it becomes a very useful tool in examination of alimentary system, respiratory system, as well as cardiovascular system. There is also one variety of percussion, we label that as a blunt percussion, for finding out the tenderness of the organ. We'll be talking as we go by. When you percuss directly, this is called direct percussion. This is a percussion on the chest. On abdomen, usually we don't have any bony structure, so there is no possibility of direct percussion. So direct percussion is not done for abdomen. Direct percussion is done on the bony structures, particularly like a sternum, clavicle, skull bones, etc. So direct percussion cannot be done over abdominal area. Indirect percussion, you use an intervening finger, we call pleximeter finger, that is called indirect percussion. Now I'm just going through the basic principle. Follow this properly, because this same principle will be utilized in cardiovascular system examination as well as respiratory system examination. What are the basic principles? One, there is something called as a pleximeter finger. By and large, we use either the index finger or the middle finger as a pleximeter finger, whichever is comfortable to you. It is always better to use a middle finger or an index finger. The distal most part, that is the distal portion of the finger, is in a very close contact with the area where you are doing a percussion. And with percussing finger, usually for percussing finger we use an index finger or a middle finger. Again, whichever is comfortable to you. By and large, the person uses either the middle finger or the index finger for percussion. And when you are giving a jerk with the percussing finger, it is with the movement at the wrist. And at a time, you give one or two jerk at a time. All jerks should be of same force. Another principle is your anatomical localization of organs should be very clear. What type of structure is below where you are percussing? Always go from a resonant area towards a dull area. The meaning of resonant area is the structure which is containing air inside that particular structure where you are percussing will give rise to resonant sound, while the solid structure like muscle, bone, liver, kidney, pancreas, spleen, uterus, they all will be dull on percussion. Also, the area where there is a fluid collected like bladder or free fluid in abdomen, that will also give rise to dull note. Before you do a percussion, explain the person and take the written consent. Ideally, we should take a consent and explain what you are going to do. Percussion should be done according to the anatomical landmarks, using anatomical landmarks. And while doing a percussion, there should be absolute silence in that room. We call it absolutely quiet room. There shouldn't be no additional sound. And even a person on whom you are percussing, he should not be talking with you. These are some of the principles which you should follow while doing a percussion. And depending upon which area you are percussing, you can utilize light percussion, heavy percussion, etc. There are different types of percussion which you can utilize. And you can find out whether that particular structure is resonant. And again, in resonant, normal resonant, hyper resonant, tympanic, or it is impaired note, dull note, or solid dullness, or it is also described as a stony dullness, etc. So you try to identify. For liver, you will have to percuss from right iliac fossa towards the right hypochondrium to identify the lower border of the liver. And to identify the upper border of the liver, you will have to percuss from above in the chest from second space downwards to find out the upper border of the liver. And by finding out the upper border and lower border, you will be able to identify the size as well as the shape. In a spleen, you will have to percuss from right iliac fossa towards the left hypochondrium, and you will be able to identify the size and the shape by percussing in that area, that is in a left hypochondric area. While doing a percussion on liver and spleen, you will be also be able to identify the tenderness or not. Then if you percuss in the other area, almost in all the area over the abdomen anteriorly, you will get hyperresonant note because there is air present in small intestine, air is also present in colon. So in all this area, you will find a hyperresonant note. If you percuss in a left hypochondrium, in that area, when the stomach is full with a food or with a liquid, in that area you will get impaired note, or you might get a dull note. There is another space which will be identifying, that is called trop space. Over the trop space, you will get a tympanic note. Now, one another principle you have to keep it in mind, always percuss from a non-tender area, and last area should be the tender area, or where you get a pain, or person is complaining of pain in that particular region. So always percuss in the tender area last. Percuss in all the four quadrants. By and large, we utilize the four quadrant or nine quadrants. So you percuss in all the nine quadrants or percuss in all the four quadrants. That is right upper, right lower, left lower. So this finger, which is in a close contact with the wall, or what we call as a skin, that is called pleximeter finger. The finger which you are percussing is called as a plexer, or we call percussing finger, and movement should be at the wrist joint. So pleximeter finger, usually the middle finger of the left hand is being utilized, what we call as a left hand plexer or percussing finger, and usually the middle finger, the tip of the right hand, is being utilized, whichever way, if you are lefty, depending upon that. So that is called as an indirect percussion. Majority of the time, the middle finger is in a close contact with the abdominal wall. Very few people utilizes the index finger. And even while percussing, the middle finger of the percussing hand is being utilized. And the movement is done at the wrist joint. And at a time you give one or two jerks. All the jerks are of equal force. As far as percussion of the lung is concerned, same percussion principles are being utilized. Always we have to remember that anything which is containing air will produce resonant note. Depending upon the quantity of air and depending upon how close it is to the surface, it will produce resonant or hyper resonant or tympanic. And if it is containing a solid structure or a liquid, it will produce a dull note. In this dull note, depending upon the severity of the fluid, the quantity of fluid, how close it is to the surface, it will produce impaired note or a dull note or a stony dull. You should be aware of where you are percussing and what is the beneath where you are percussing. Usually over the bone, solid structure like liver, you will always have a dull note. Liver, spleen, you will have a dull note. While stomach, that is the fundus part of the stomach, it is usually filled with the air and you will get a tympanic note. And this area we call as a trop space. Some of the solid structures like pancreas, kidney, they are retroperitoneal structures. Being a retroperitoneal structure, while percussing you find difficulty, and usually you will get resonant note because on the surface, that is between the abdominal wall and the organs like pancreas, kidney, which are retroperitoneal structure, there are coils of intestine, that is small intestine, which is containing air, hence they will give rise to resonant sound. So even if the pancreas is a solid structure, kidney is a solid structure, still you will be getting a resonant note because of small intestine containing air will be between those organs and anterior abdominal wall. When bladder is full with urine, it is still a peritoneal or we call pelvic structure. It is not above the pubic symphysis, but when it is further distended and if it is containing urine more than 300 ml, it becomes a suprapubic structure, and as it is filled with fluid, what we call as urine, when you percuss over that, you will get tenderness plus you will get dull note. Also in case of uterus, it is little anterior structure, and whenever it is enlarged, it is made up mainly of muscles, and in good number of conditions like fibroid, pregnancy, pyometra, hydatiform mole, choriocarcinoma, uterine carcinoma, in all those when the uterus is enlarged, and if you percuss over that, it will give you dull note. So you have to keep all this thing in mind so that you will be able to identify which structure is there and what is the possibility. While percussion, always stand on the right side of the patient, and we have already mentioned, by and large, almost majority of people utilizes the middle finger as a pleximeter finger, and also they utilize the middle finger as a percussing finger, and movement is done at a wrist joint. You will have to percuss in all the four quadrants, and the tender area should be last. All four quadrants of abdomen are evaluated by percussion. Initially, you can start with a light percussion, and if you are not able to identify clearly, then you can utilize little heavy percussion. So there are different words which are being utilized, or which are terminology we will be using those. We already mentioned that as far as resonance is concerned, three common words: resonance, little extra resonance we call as a hyperresonance, and when it is more than hyperresonance we use a tympanic. And as far as the impaired note is concerned, we call as an impaired note or a flat note, dull note, and when it is like percussing on a wall, it is called stony dull. These are the common terms which are being utilized. Usually we call flat note or a impaired note when you percuss on the bone or muscles. You get a dull note when you percuss on the heart, liver, spleen, we call solid structures. And when you percuss in an area where it is containing fluid and it is in a large quantity, you will get stony dull. As far as resonance is concerned, any structure which is containing air, classical example lungs, you will get a resonant note. If you contain a large quantity of air, you like in a colon or in a fundus part of stomach or in a small intestine, you will get a hyperresonant note. And if it is containing a large quantity of air, say like in a pleural cavity in a pneumothorax, total pneumothorax, it will be like tympanic note. Also in the fundus part of the stomach, if it is containing a large quantity of air, you can have a tympanic note. It is called drum like. So these are the different characters of the sound which you can get. So percussion is being utilized mainly. Initially you always start with a light percussion. By light percussion you can easily identify the border of different organs to identify whether there is an enlargement of organ or not, to detect a presence of free fluid in abdomen, to find out the gaseous distension by identifying the tympanic note or a hyperresonant note. And in case of acute abdomen, you can identify even the change in the note due to presence of air, free air in a pleural cavity we call as pneumoperitoneum, and this can be very clearly identified while percussing in a right hypochondrium, where you will have obliteration of a dullness due to liver. And free air in abdomen is very common in perforated peptic ulcer or colonic perforation or even a small intestinal perforation. Perforation in the stomach will be because of gastric ulcer. Duodenum, you will have a duodenal ulcer perforation. In small intestine, typhoid ulcer perforation. And in colon, very frequently you will have a perforation secondary due to what we call as inflammatory disorders like Crohn's disease, sometime in case of ulcerative colitis, or even because of some procedures during colonoscopy or during sigmoidoscopy. You can have a perforation, or even sometime you can get secondary due to traumatic injury. Also, you can have a free air in abdomen during Rubin test, post-surgical, and even a gas-forming organism infection. Now, what are the normal percussion findings? All over the abdomen, you will get a resonant note because of the presence of air in the stomach. You will have a resonant note, or sometimes even you get a tympanic note in the fundus part of the stomach. That area we call as a trop space. We'll be discussing that particular specific in a respiratory system and cardiovascular system. Also, it is a part which can be asked in your alimentary system, or we call abdominal examination. While in a case of intestine and colon, usually it is a resonant note. If air quantity is adequate enough, you get a hyperresonant note. In a fundus part of the stomach, I have already mentioned that is a trop space, you will get a tympanic note. You will get a dull note or impaired note or a stony dull. If there is a large quantity of fluid, you will get a stony dull. If there is a presence of free fluid, depending upon the quantity of fluid, you will have a dull note or a stony dull. Fecal matter impaction in a colon will produce a dull note in a left iliac fossa and left lumbar region. A solid organ like liver and spleen will produce a dull note. A solid mass like malignancy, lymph node, a big lymph node, or say enlargement of uterus, ovarian cyst, or ovarian mass, teratomas, etc. We call solid mass. They will be dull. So those structure will give you a dull note. So you have to remember that which structure can give you a dull note, what can give you a dull note. So we'll be dealing with all this: liver enlargement, spleen enlargement, distended gallbladder, because distended gallbladder will be filled with a bile which is a liquid, or it may be containing a gallstones, that will be dull. Distended bladder is also filled with urine which is a liquid, or we call fluid, that will be also dull. But when it becomes suprapubic, then only it will be percussible and dull note. And usually distended gallbladder will be tender, because distended gallbladder is very commonly with cholecystitis. So it will be inflamed gallbladder. So it is usually tender. Enlarged uterus, particularly infected or malignancy, may be tender. Ovarian tumors, by and large, again these are usually malignant tumor. Very occasionally they are benign tumors. In case of pseudocyst of pancreas, it is a collection of a fluid in a space around the stomach, and that we call is a pseudocyst of pancreas. And because it contains a fluid, again it is a dull note. Any swelling which is solid in nature will give rise to a dull note. In case of ascites, you will have a typical horseshoe shaped dullness, will be showing you that, and there will be shifting dullness. And I already mentioned, in case of a fecal impaction, fecal matter will collect more in a left side, so it will produce a dullness in a left iliac fossa and left lumbar region. We already mentioned kidney, pancreas are a retroperitoneal structure. They are posterior structures, and between those structure and abdominal wall, small intestine will be coming, and they usually contain air. Hence, there will be no dullness. So this should be kept in mind. So now, if you get a resonant note all over the abdomen, it is normal. Inner trough space tympanic note is normal. If tympanic note disappears, it can be because of cardiac pathophysiology, lung pathophysiology, or because of pathophysiology in stomach like gastric carcinoma, absence of gas in the fundus part of the stomach. So carcinoma of the fundal part of the stomach, you will have a absence of tympanic note in a trough space. I've already mentioned that if there is a free air in the abdomen, we usually use the word pneumoperitoneum, and air being lighter, it ascends up between the liver and diaphragm, and when it is present between the liver and diaphragm, air gives rise to resonant note. Hence, liver dullness will be obliterated, or the area of liver dullness will be reduced depending upon the quantity of air. And this pneumoperitoneum I already mentioned, it can be because of perforation of DU, GU. Gastric ulcer will be in stomach, duodenal ulcer will be in duodenum, enteric perforation, and in case of ulcerative colitis, perforation in colon. Post-Rubin test, following a surgery we call post-surgical. Following any laparoscopic surgery also, you will have a good quantity of air in abdomen. Any person who develops a gas gangrene or he gets infection by gas forming organism, he will have pneumoperitoneum. We know very well if there is some pathophysiology like volvulus, small bowel obstruction, large bowel obstruction, ileus, pyloric stenosis. Now in this particular condition, because of obstruction, the food content, liquid content, etc. cannot pass further. So you will have a collection of a fluid in a stomach or in a small bowel or in a large bowel, and when it is collected in a large quantity in that area, you will have a dullness. Hence, you might get a dullness in person who has got a volvulus, ileus, pyloric stenosis, large bowel obstruction, small bowel obstruction, etc. because of collection of a fluid in those particular structures. We have already mentioned that liver dullness will be reduced or diminished, or sometime even the liver dullness is absent in case of a pneumoperitoneum. Diaphragm, if it is pushed down because of emphysema or right side pneumothorax, on that side also upper border of the liver will be pushed down. Upper border of liver will be pushed up if there is an amoebic liver abscess, because it is usually in a right lobe and right upper lobe of liver. Even pyogenic liver abscess is common in a right lobe of liver. So the upper border of the liver will be pushed up. It will be tender. This has to be kept in mind. In person with a huge ascites, pregnancy, or even in a massive pelvic tumors, maybe because of uterus or maybe because of ovary, the pelvic structures are pushed up, diaphragm is pushed up, and that may produce the liver dullness elevated. Now while doing an indirect percussion, most commonly we utilize a light percussion. Very rarely you have to go for a heavy percussion. When you want to find out a deeper structure, then only you use a heavy percussion. By and large, we always utilize a light percussion, and for a deeper structure, you utilize heavy percussion. So that is as far as the type of percussion is concerned. Always begin with the light percussion, and when it becomes difficult to detect or you want to detect the deep tenderness, you can go for a heavy percussion. Localized and superficial lesions, usually you will be able to identify by light percussion, while deeper structure you will be able to identify by heavy percussion. We already mentioned that the movement should be done by a percussing hand at wrist joint, and the force should be same while doing each percussion. Sorry, and at a time one or two percussion at a time. Usually this is not a common term which is being utilized, moderate percussion. It depends upon the individual person to person. So heavy percussion is usually for a deeper structure and to find out the deep tenderness. By percussion you identify the upper border of liver and lower border of liver. You can identify the spleen enlargement. Usually in a kidney and pancreas, we have already mentioned, being a retroperitoneal structure, it is very difficult to identify unless the kidney becomes 3 times, 4 times, 5 times the original size. Bladder, when it is full and you have got retention, it becomes a suprapubic structure. Then only you can identify that by percussion. And enlarged liver, distended bladder due to retention, it will be usually tender. Uterus, if it is enlarged, then only it will be palpable per abdomen and it will be dull note. Gallbladder, when it is obstructed and inflamed, it will be tender and dull because it will be containing a bile, or very frequently you can have a gallstone which produces enlargement of the gallbladder. And we already mentioned pancreas is also a retroperitoneal structure. When it gets massively enlarged, then only you will get a dull note. But by and large, being a retroperitoneal structure, and small intestine is between the pancreas and anterior abdominal wall, so it gives rise to the resonant note. But in case of one pancreatic pathophysiology, that is we call as an acute pancreatitis, there is a collection of a fluid in a different spaces, lesser sac or greater sac, and that produces collection of a fluid in those different compartments we call pseudocyst of pancreas, and because it contains a fluid, it will give rise to a dull note, and there will be a cystic swelling which will be there in that area. Now I am starting with liver. So for detection of a gaseous distension, fluid, mass, or a solid structure, we know that you have to percuss in all different quadrants. You should be aware of anatomy. You should always percuss from resonant area to a dull area. Initially, always a light percussion should be utilized. And whenever you cannot detect properly by a light percussion, do a heavy percussion depending upon which structures you are percussing. Always percuss the painful area last. While identifying the border of liver, percuss from right iliac fossa towards the right hypochondrium to identify the lower border of liver, and percuss from right clavicle, that is first intercostal space on the right side, down to identify the upper border of liver, and by that you will be able to identify the liver size, and by identifying the lower border you will be able to identify even the shape of the liver. And while doing a percussion you will be also be able to identify whether it is tender or non-tender. So that will be the way you try to identify the liver borders. Now little idea regarding a liver percussion for lower border. Whenever you want to identify the lower border of the lever, always use a gentle percussion, or we call as a light percussion, because you are going from a resonant area to the dull area. So have a gentle percussion, you will be able to identify much better. In case of a doubt, you can utilize a scratch method, that is scratching and auscultating, which we have already discussed or will be discussing in a auscultation of abdominal examination. And when you are percussing from above, again you are percussing from resonant area to a dull area. So have a gentle percussion, or we call as a light percussion, and keep room quiet and concentrate for the type of the sound. This is a scratch method, and you auscultate and identify the lower border. I've already shown this particular slide in auscultation. So this is identifying the upper border, you are percussing from above downwards, and this is from right iliac fossa towards the right hypochondrium. So to identify the lower border of lever, and after that you will be able to mention whether there is a enlarged lever or not. So there are certain possibility. If you get the upper border of lever in the fifth intercostal space and lower border parallel to the right costal margin, usually that is considered as normal. But if upper border of the lever is pushed down, say instead of the fifth space it is in the sixth space, seventh space, means diaphragm is pushed down. This can be due to right side total pneumothorax or tension pneumothorax. Good number of time it is because of a total pneumothorax where diaphragm is pushed down, or the diaphragm is pushed down because of massive collection of a fluid on right side. Now in a case of a pneumothorax and emphysema on the right side, you will have a hyperresonant note in case of an emphysema, and in a case of a pneumothorax, total pneumothorax, it will be a tympanic note. Because diaphragm is pushed down, the upper border of the lever will be pushed down, and lever as it is pushed down, the lower border will be dull and it will be below the right costal margin. Here you will not be able to identify lever is enlarged or not. So in this particular type of presentation, you should be cautious while mentioning regarding a hepatomegaly. But if the upper border of lever is in the fifth intercostal space, there is no pathophysiology on the right side of the lung, and lower border is 1 finger, 2 finger, 3 finger below the right costal margin, you will definitely say there is a hepatomegaly. Now if a person has got upper border of lever in the second intercostal space on the right side, or third intercostal space on the right side, or fourth intercostal space on the right side, means above the fifth intercostal space, you will be able to say that liver is pushed up or liver is enlarged. The upper border of liver is pushed up, which can be because of the right upper lobe amoebic abscess or pyogenic liver abscess. Now the important part, if this you want to identify as a liver, you will have to ask the person to take a deep inspiration and then repeat the percussion. So when you are doing a percussion, first do it during expiration, and when a person is taking a deep inspiration, the dome of our diaphragm will be pushed at least 1 or 2 space down. So now during a deep inspiration, it will be shifted at least 1 or 2 space down, depending upon how deep he takes an inspiration. So if that dullness does not shift at all, then it is not due to liver. It may be due to pathophysiology in lung. This should be kept in the mind. So if this upper border is say in a fourth intercostal space or in a third intercostal space, and it does not shift down during deep inspiration, it is not due to liver, because liver dullness will shift down during deep inspiration because of shift of diaphragm downwards. And this is the way you try to differentiate between a lung dullness and liver dullness. So if there is any pathophysiology in a lung, say as for example, right lower lobe consolidation, right lower lobe collapse, which will produce a dull note, right side pleural effusion, subdiaphragmatic effusion, these are also dull. So if there is a dullness in that area, that dullness which is because of a lung pathophysiology will not shift down, and if it doesn't shift down, that dullness is due to lung pathophysiology or pathophysiology which is in pleura. And if there is a pathophysiology in the lung which is producing a resonant note like emphysema or right side pneumothorax, in both these conditions, right dome of diaphragm is pushed down, so liver dullness will be pushed down, plus because there is a hyperresonant note or tympanic note in case of a pneumothorax and hyperresonant note in case of an emphysema, liver dullness as such will be impaired. Instead of dullness, you will get a resonant note or a tympanic note. Hence, you will not be able to identify the exact size, and liver lower border will be palpable plus percussible below the right costal margin. This is very important to keep it in mind. Now if you get a massive enlargement of liver, meaning if the liver is enlarged right up to right iliac fossa, or say it is enlarged 5 finger, 10 finger, then in India the most common cause is malaria, Kala Azar. Then in case of a chronic myeloid leukemia, severe congestive heart failure, liver carcinoma like hepatoma, or secondary metastasis in liver, a massive liver abscess like amoebic liver abscess or pyogenic liver abscess, and occasionally in case of a hepatitis, particularly viral hepatitis, what we call as a viral hepatitis A. In case of polycythemia, it is enlarged but may not be massively enlarged. While liver dullness size will be markedly reduced, or you will say dullness is almost very difficult to identify if there is an acute hepatic necrosis secondary due to hepatitis or because of drug induced, secondary to drugs, or if in case of, I have already mentioned, if the liver is shrunken because secondary due to fibrosis like in cirrhosis of liver, or there is a colon which has come in between the liver and dome of diaphragm, we call as a, that is hepatic flexure has come between the dome of diaphragm and liver, or there is a pathophysiology in the lung like complete pneumothorax or severe emphysema which is producing hyperresonant note or tympanic note, hence the liver dullness will be very difficult to identify. Also you can come across if there is a pneumoperitoneum, and if there is a large quantity of air collected between the liver and dome of diaphragm because of perforation of gastric ulcer, duodenal ulcer, or typhoid ulcer, or perforation in colon following a Rubin test, gas gangrene or gas forming organism peritonitis, organism is gas forming, etc. This will be post-surgical or following a laparoscopic surgery, etc. So remember all those conditions. We have already mentioned majority of them. Gallbladder, if it is enlarged, it will be palpable and percussible, and on percussion it will be a dull note. By and large, the gallbladder is enlarged in case of cholecystitis, and the most common cause of cholecystitis is because of gallstone obstruction. Hence, there is a collection of a bile, there is an inflamed gallbladder, and that is tender and dull. So you will be able to get that typical Murphy's sign. So do remember that tenderness can be found even at the renal angle if there is a pyelonephritis or there is a perinephric abscess. Some of the liver enlargement may be tender, particularly amoebic liver abscess, pyogenic liver abscess, acute infective hepatitis, even secondary metastasis. Also in case of a primary hepatoma, liver may be enlarged and tender. Now, if we go through a spleen, because these are all the different questions which can be asked to you in your oral. The causes of liver enlargement, causes of absence of liver dullness, change in the liver dullness, elevation of upper border, etc. These are all the different questions. I have almost tried to cover up all those parts in a percussion. As far as the spleen is concerned, it is extremely difficult to percuss a spleen if it is of a normal size, because a spleen is a very small structure, and between the spleen and external surface there are a lot of other structure which comes, and it becomes extremely difficult to percuss a spleen. So in an anterior axillary line close to the 12th intercostal space, you will be able to, very difficult, very difficult. And when a person takes a deep inspiration, and if spleen is enlarged, almost we say twice or thrice enlarged, then it is just palpable. So only in case of a spleen enlargement, it will be very easy to percuss when it is palpable. And whenever you want to percuss, you will have to percuss from the right iliac fossa and go towards the left hypochondrium, and percuss in a mid axillary line in the lowermost part of the thoracic, that is the left hypochondrium, and that will be the area where you will be able to find out spleen dullness. It is little difficult, but you will be able to find out that way. So this is a trop space, and little lateral to the trop space you will be able to identify the spleen dullness. And if a spleen is enlarged, then it is very easy to identify the dullness. So it is said that in a mid axillary line, you percuss from the second intercostal space down to identify the spleen dullness, and in a 9th to 12th intercostal space you will be able to get that dullness. The size is very small, and again it is very difficult to percuss, sorry, not palpate, percuss. So there is one technology which is called as a Nixon method, means place the person in a right lateral decubitus and then you do the percussion. This is called Nixon method. In that particular technique, you percuss in a midway along the left costal margin and then proceed in a line perpendicular to the left costal margin. This is the left costal margin, and you percuss perpendicular to that. If you will be able to identify, and if the upper limit of the dullness extend more than 8 centimeter above the left costal margin, you will say that probably that is splenomegaly. Again, very difficult, but this is called Nixon method. And there is another technology called as a Castle method. This is done in a supine posture, you utilize the left anterior axillary line and you have to identify the left costal margin. Now you have to percuss in the lowest left intercostal space in the anterior axillary line, that is 8th or 9th intercostal space, and particularly when the person takes a deep inspiration and deep expiration. By and large, this space remains resonant during a full inspiration, but if the dullness is there during full inspiration, it indicates that possibility of splenic enlargement, and this is called as a Castle method. So this is also one of the technology. This is little better than Nixon method, because this gives you a little chance that if the spleen is enlarged, which moves with inspiration, you might see a dullness in that area. So that is one of the technology which can be very, very helpful. Trop space is a space which you can define. Medially there is a cardiac border, laterally there is a spleen, superiorly the lung resonance, and inferiorly the costal margin. So in a supine posture, costal margin, mid axillary line and splenomegaly will produce a dullness lateral, and this will be a triangular space which will be having a tympanic note because of the gas in the fundus part of the stomach. Now the spleen enlargement, again if it is a massive enlargement of the spleen, again in India the most common cause is malaria, Kala Azar, chronic myeloid leukemia, myelodysplastic syndromes. Also in case of a myelofibrosis, spleen will be enlarged. Severe portal hypertension, spleen will be massively enlarged. Also in case of a polycythemia rubra vera, spleen will be massively enlarged. Now, if you get a very enlarged spleen, these are the common condition. But just palpable spleen does not give you an idea that this condition cannot be. But just palpable spleen is less likely to be all the condition what we have mentioned. Very frequently you will get a just palpable spleen in case of a hemolytic anemia. In malaria, Kala Azar also you can have a just palpable spleen. So always try to identify the spleen size. As we come to ascites, what we call the free fluid in abdomen, there are few percussion finding we call as a shifting dullness, fluid wave, horseshoe shaped dullness, and in case of small quantity of fluid, Poodle sign in a knee chest position. This is Poodle sign. So person acquires a knee chest position, wait for some time, and then percuss at the lowermost part of a abdomen. Because of a small quantity of fluid, you will get a dull note, and this is given a name Poodle sign. For detecting a horseshoe shaped dullness, you will have to percuss from xiphisternum along the right costal margin to find out the dullness. Starting from right side towards the left side, you will get a dullness in this area, dullness in this area, and dullness in this area. So you have got a dullness on the two lateral side, starting from right hypochondrium, right lumbar, and right iliac fossa, and also in hypogastrium. So it gives rise a horseshoe shape, so it is called horseshoe shaped dullness. And in the center, close to the epigastrium, you will have a coil of intestine which will produce a hyperresonant note. Now, if you percuss, say on the right side, in the right lumbar region, you get a dull note. ask the person to turn on the left side, all the fluid will come to the dependent area, and now you percuss on the area where there was a dull note. Now because the coil will float on the top of the fluid, it will give rise to tympanic note. This is called shifting dullness. And while doing a percussion, if you put your palm on the opposite side, you can get a fluid thrill. So this is a typical horseshoe shaped dullness. This will be a tympanic area. And when you ask the person to shift from supine to one lateral position, you will have a tympanic note where there was a dull note. And again ask him to go back to supine posture, you will demonstrate the shifting dullness. It is difficult to explain you on a video lectures. So whenever we come to practical side, we'll show you that findings. So this is called typical shifting dullness. You will be able to demonstrate in a person with adequate quantity of fluid, free fluid in abdomen. And while doing that percussion, if you put your palm on the opposite side, now I'll show you that particular. If you percuss here and you put a palm here, the fluid wave will be passed and you will be able to palpate here, and also you will be able to auscultate. So percussion and palpation and percussion and auscultation can be done as far as the fluid thrill is concerned. So fluid thrill will be palpable as well as you will be able to get fluid splash on auscultation. This is one of the finding in free fluid in abdomen, but the fluid has to be of adequate quantity. And if there is a large quantity of a fluid, while palpating the deeper structures like liver, you will have to use a ballotment method, and that is one of the important things you have to keep it in mind while doing a palpation. So fluid wave will be palpable. In case of a bladder or ovarian cyst or uterus, it is a structure which is arising from pelvis. So you will get a dullness which is oval in shape, and outside that you will have a tympanic note, while in case of a ascites you will have a horseshoe shaped dullness and the center part will be tympanic. This is one of the easy way to differentiate between a pelvic organ enlargement like ovarian tumor or uterine or a retention of bladder. So this is classical of gross ascites, horseshoe shaped dullness, center part is tympanic. In case of ovarian cyst, you will see a dullness or structure arising from the pelvis, and in case of a intestinal obstruction, you will get entire abdomen tympanic. There is one technology which is being described in case of a huge ovarian cyst. We call ruler pressing test, where to differentiate a huge ovarian cyst from the ascites, you will have to use a foot rule. And that what you do, patient should take a supine posture, examiner will put a foot rule on the patient abdominal wall horizontally, and then the person will press the foot rule down with two hands. He will go down with two hands. The huge ovarian cyst exists. If it is existing, the pulsation of abdominal aorta will conduct to the foot rule via the cyst, leading to rhythmic pulsation of a foot rule. This is one of the tests which can be done. And if there is a free fluid, not cyst, then the pulsation of abdominal aorta could not be conducted, so the foot rule has no such rhythmic pulsation. This is one of the good technology by which you can differentiate between ovarian cyst and free fluid in abdomen, that is ascites. As far as the trop space is concerned, we have already mentioned the upper border is the normal resonant sound of a lung. Right border is because of the left lobe of liver and heart, that is left border of the heart. Left border of the top space is because of spleen, and lower border is the left costal margin. So roughly this is a space. This is a space. And this space, behind this space, there is fundus part of the stomach which contains air. And because there is a good quantity of air, the person will get tympanic note. So in a normal person, in a top space, there is a tympanic note. Now we know that here on the right side, it is because of the left border of the heart and left lobe of liver. So in those pathophysiology, if there is a left lobe of liver is massively enlarged, or there is a massive cardiomegaly, like massive pericardial effusion, huge cardiomegaly, cardiomyopathy, top space will diminish or may be absent. The upper border is by the lung. So in a lung pathology on the left side, like left side pleural effusion, left side pneumothorax, left lower lobe collapse, left lower lobe consolidation, and left lower lobe pathophysiology, top space may be difficult to elicit and it may be absent. As far as the spleen is concerned, which is a left border, in case of a massive splenomegaly also the top space will be affected. So spleen pathophysiology, lung pathophysiology, left lobe of liver, heart can affect the top space. Now in consideration of the stomach, if you have got any pathophysiology which produces a solid tumor in the fundus part of the stomach like gastric carcinoma, or in a person with a heavy meal, the gas in the fundus part of the stomach reduces and you can have an absence of top space. These are all the conditions where the top space may be affected. So these are the conditions: cardiac dullness, spleen dullness, lung resonance on the top, and there is inferior border is because of the costal margin. So cardiomegaly will give you a false dullness in the top space, left side pleural effusion, lower lobe collapse, lower lobe consolidation, malignancy, massive pericardial effusion, cardiomyopathy, valvular heart disease, etc. will produce almost absence of top space. And in case of a massive splenomegaly like malaria, kala azar, portal hypertension, chronic myeloid leukemia, polycythemia rubra vera, and we have mentioned in a stomach, CA fundus, and after a heavy meal. In all these conditions, top space may be absent. At the renal angle, you will be able to percuss renal tenderness, which you will get in case of a perinephric abscess, pyelonephritis, and occasionally in case of a glomerulonephritis. While in case of a what we call as distended bladder, if it becomes suprapubic, it will be dull and it will be tender. And once you relieve the obstruction, bladder will be empty, dullness will disappear. This will be characteristic. So also percussion at the costophrenic angle is useful. We call as a costophrenic angle tenderness in case of a perinephric abscess and pyelonephritis. It will be important. So it is called as a costophrenic angle tenderness. This is also called as a assessing a kidney tenderness, that is costovertebral angle tenderness. Costovertebral angle tenderness or costolumbar tenderness, whichever word you use. It is at the tenderness at the renal angle. We already mentioned regarding a bladder percussion. Empty bladder will never be able to detect on percussion, but if bladder is distended and there is a retention of urine, then only it will be percussible. So I end my lecture here. I hope this lecture will be very helpful to you because good number of things will be asked to you in your oral as well as some of the things may be asked in your theory like hepatomegaly, splenomegaly. This is more of your oral exams. I think this will be very helpful to you when we have a practicals. Will be showing you all these findings whenever it is feasible. So I thank you all for taking out time. I know that your time is valuable and I appreciate you for spending some of the time with me. See you in next lecture.